Despite reports to the contrary, the New York Knicks are not dead yet. Here's how they can pull an upset in Game 5.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Gavin Shaw. I'm your Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. He's Alex Wolf, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check their work out on all forms of social media over at thestrick.land. This is, of course, Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team, at least, often more, maybe not so much in the future, 5 days a week. So be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. Alex, on today's show, yesterday we let ourselves sulk, we let ourselves be sad. Maybe we'll get a little angry this one, but we're probably not going to be as sad, I hope. We were talking keys to an upset in Game 5. The first one, I think, should be obvious, fixing the rotation, a defensive adjustment that I think could potentially swing things in the Knicks' favor, and a recapturing early season offense. We'll tell you the keys to all of that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to remind everyone that today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, Alex, we said it already, but on three, what's the first adjustment? 1, 2, 3, fire
rotations. Oh, what? Oh,
it's really right. I didn't hear anything. It's rotations, Alex. What are the rotational adjustments, if that's a word, that the Knicks need to make to potentially take back control in this series?
In fact, those were both words. I think we could consult Merriam-Webster.
I knew it was a word. I didn't know it was in that context. Is that okay? Rotational adjustments? I'm not sure.
Sure, whatever. Who cares? It's still a word, man. You can always add a new definition. Words are to quote Thor in one of the Avengers movies, all words are made up. So
Infinity War.
I think that was Infinity War. Yeah. I was trying to remember if that was Infinity War or Endgame. But yes, all words are made up. Anyway, all rotations are made up too, and Tibbs needs to remember that, I guess. I think so. Fixing the rotation, I'm going back and forth on it. So there's part of me, after how things have gone the last couple games with the new starting lineup, that wants to say, I'm almost tempted to say, go back to the original starting lineup, but just get subs in quicker, I think would be the main thing, and be more willing to adjust when the wheels start coming off. I think that, like, we've seen that having Mitch come in as a bench presence is probably the best way to utilize him. I think that I loved the idea of throwing him out there to start the game. Again, one of those things that it would have been really nice to have like a little preview of during the regular season to see how it works. And instead they're having to kind of like learn on the fly in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think that having Mitch starting with Cat, it eliminates a little bit of that. One, the safety that you get from having Mitch as like the backup plan. So if Cat gets in early foul trouble, but then it eliminates a little bit of like the way that the team can play two different ways with those guys out there. And considering the Knicks don't use Cat enough as a floor spacer and don't look to him enough, like just even on like kick out threes or whatever in alignments with Mitch out there, it kind of negates it. And it's like, I almost think it would be better to just have Cat out there who can still get into the paint then by himself. And, I'll say it later on, but hopefully you can run a little more offense that involves your two all NBA players together. But I think that's part of the rotation for me. The other thing would just be just like reading what the game gives you, or whatever Tibbs's little mantra is this year. Like, read what the game is giving you. Like, if Josh Hart is just taking a dump on the floor, take him out of the game. Like, put someone else in. You've already seen that some of these other guys can play more. Play Deuce McBride more. Like, I'm so sorry, but like, we're such a broken record with this, but like, the dude played 15 minutes last night. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, his minutes were not bad. And he's shown time and time again that, like, even if he's not shooting well, he's not going to lose his minutes on the floor. And in fact, he's probably the best answer you have to potentially guard Tyrese Halliburton right now, because Mikal keeps getting cooked in that matchup. So, I mean, it's just little things like that. But, there are pieces, they're like little breadcrumbs you can pick up all over. that Tibbs is left of things that could work. Like I think expanding the rotation has worked, and I think that that's something that they should keep doing. I think that they tried the new starting lineup, and I don't necessarily know if that's working perfectly. And I think that might be worth scaling back and going back to the original starting lineup, but just being more willing to sub guys out. But we've seen Deuce in large samples wins games potentially. Mitch, when deployed properly, wins games. DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet have given you really solid minutes and completely made you forget the campaign is even on the roster. Like he doesn't even need to be a factor anymore. And those two guys can play 10 to 15 minutes apiece if you need them to. I think Tibbs just needs to finally, for the first time, take an honest look at this team and make it a meritocracy. And that's what it comes down to for me for fixing the rotations, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I won't belabor the point too much on Deuce. I will say I don't think I absolutely would not come out with the double bigs again, even though I kind of think he's going to. They were -5 and 4 minutes in that first stint, and you could see Indiana. I mean, just once they got the gears turning, they were -8 overall for the game in 10 minutes. That translates to a -40 net rating now for the series. That group is a -14.6 net rating, and it is, to your point, it is obvious whether that could be fixed with better scheme or if more time had put in. At this point in the year, you are not unlocking Cat offensively at the 4. Like, will he incidentally end up with the ball and make a play sometimes because he's hyper talented? Yeah, of course, that'll happen at some point, but he's not maximized there. I don't think Mitch is maximized starting. You're really reliant on Mikal Bridges to create offense just because it's a very clogged floor. And I mentioned how much I like their size in the first stint. And while that's true to some extent in the half court, when Indiana was able to turn up the pace a little bit, get out in transition more, and also just play faster in the half court, right? With multiple sets. They had that little toss back play, opening play of the game, I believe for an open 3, if memory's serving me correctly there. And Tyrese Halliburton, it all adds up to him having 15 points and 6 assists in less than 10 minutes to start the game. The Pacers scored 37 points, less than 10 minutes into the game. Obviously, that was not all with that group out there, but I think it is very, very clear to me that the double big starting 5 doesn't work. And to your point, I would honestly prefer the original starting lineup as much as I absolutely detest the original starting lineup. I'll put out my mock group. I would play Brunson 35 minutes at the 1, Wright a total of 14 minutes between the 1 and 2, Deuce 34, Shamet 11, Mikal 33, Hart 15 at the 3, 7 at the 4, OG 38, Cat 37 total, 3 at 4, 34 at the 5, Mitch 14 minutes is where I'd go. And you could argue, like, give those extra 3 Cat minutes to Mitch, find some way to play Mitch a little bit more. But I think that my general premise is, like, you need to lean into shooting as much as you can get out there and insulation around your 2 stars. That means minimizing Brunson and Cat together and maximize the amount of time you have 2-way shooters out there, which is Deuce, which to some extent is Shamet, even though he's a little weak on defense, which to some extent is Wright, even though he's not the best shooter in the world. I think that is the best way you can go. And you just have to find a way to have better point of attack defenders against Tyrese Halliburton, or like none of the offensive conversation really matters to me.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it comes down to, I think the offense has been frustrating, but somehow good enough. It's like the offense has been largely able to go on runs and, able to make comebacks and whatever. The problem is that they keep falling into these holes, and like, they don't seem to be really doing anything all that innovative on defense, which, like, compared to the Boston series, I mean, Tibbs going to switch everything in the Boston series was really out of character for him. It was like out of pocket. It's like you did not expect Tibbs to do something like that and make a total stylistic shift like he did. And they just haven't really done anything that makes you think that in this series. I mean, I was even thinking about it. There's just like a random thought on my drive home today, but like, even just something so simple as, I know it's not the perfect ideal matchup, but like Halliburton, I don't think falls into that category of like a guard with such a crazy lightning quick first step that he's like a Tyrese Maxey type guy. He's just like good at ball handling and getting by. He's certainly been good at getting by Mikal, but like, why not try doing what you did with Cade Cunningham? Like, vary the looks that you're throwing at him. Allow Mikal to have a little bit of time off the ball. Put OG on him, or if they do what you suggest and start Deuce on him. Put Deuce on that matchup and just vary the defender. Like, I think it's under maybe under discussed by us and under discussed in general thing that like, just like it's hard for Jalen Brunson, for example, to carry the offensive load and carry like a 30% usage and then also get targeted on defense, and like how we've seen that, I think that that's kind of wearing him down a bit. It's tough to give one guy the assignment of you're every minute that you're out there with the other team's best player, you're guarding him one-on-one, and that's it. And that's the whole game plan. Is that's how we're going to stop Tyrese Halliburton, is put Mikal Bridges on him. And then on top of that, Mikal also plays like 7 more minutes per game than Halliburton, and then has to guard someone else when Halliburton's out. And so he's just like, I think he's getting overextended. And, look, I'm not using that as a way to defend his defense. I think it's been pretty crappy, but I also think that it's just been a lack of recognition on Tibbs's part of something not working and doing nothing to address it, and just assuming like, well, we traded the picks for him and this guy's a great defender on paper, so of course you gotta just leave him on him and hope it works out. And it's just like, it's not working, so find something different. But there's been way less adjustments on defense in this series compared to last series against the Celtics. And I think that's those thin margins, these razor thin margins that not just the Knicks, like most teams in the playoffs, I feel like have been operating on for a lot of these playoffs, especially in the East. Like the razor thin margins the Knicks are falling off the other side, unfortunately, instead of falling onto the side where they win the games. And it's made all the difference in this series. And I think it's just the rotations, the schemes, everything just needs, like, Tibbs needs to try to put a fresh coat of paint on everything. But again, as with everything, it comes back to he doesn't practice things during the regular season or try new things. And that's why the Knicks often are having to try things that they're trying for the first time in the middle of a playoff game.
Yeah, to that point, they've played, I'm going to count it out, 2, 4, 6, 7 lineups have played at least 10 minutes in this series. Only 2 of them have a net rating that is better than -14 per 100 possessions. So the Knicks, most of the groups that Tom Thibodeau wants to go to have just been getting run. And again, that's not just on Tibbs, right? That's on guys to play better as well. Here are the 2 groups that have worked exceptionally well in more than 10 minutes, which is still a small sample size. Landry Shamet, Josh Hart, Delon Wright, Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, which I think is the group we saw in the second quarter of last game. We might have seen it in game 3 too. That group in 12 minutes has a +30 net rating. The other ones also played 12 minutes. It's OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Mitchell Robinson, Deuce McBride. That group has a +48 net rating in 12 minutes. Those are 2 lineups you can go to, and I think they kind of hold to like where the Knicks will have success in this series, and that is separating Brunson and Towns again as much as you can, if not for every minute, and then you surround them, right? That Towns group is surrounded by Wright, Anunoby, 2 elite defenders, and then 2 Hart sucked yesterday, but generally solid ones in Hart and Shamet. And then same premise with Brunson, right? Shooting plus defense. Deuce, Anunoby, Bridges, 3 defenders, Mitch to protect the rim. And Brunson's going to be your offense anyway. So do you even need Cat out there? You can split the baby just by starting Deuce with the starters, as we've suggested all year. But Alex, I want to touch more on the defensive side of the ball, as you noted. We're going to get into that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get on the action. FanDuel makes it incredibly easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I'm going to shock some people with this. I would put some money down on the Knicks in game 5. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't think this team is broken. I don't think they're going to lose at home. I think they're going to put together a great performance and do something at least the other 2 teams that played Indiana couldn't, and win game 5 in decisive fashion. If you agree with me and you're new to FanDuel, well, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we are back. Alex, next key to pulling off the upset. I summed it up as switching with Brunson, but to me, like this category of thought, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts on it, is just basically how to guard Tyrese Halliburton, because it's not working right now. It actually does not start with Jalen Brunson. It starts with Mikal Bridges and his point of attack defense. I don't want to belabor the point because we talked about it a lot yesterday, but just go back and do yourself a favor and watch a couple of possessions of the pressure that Tyrese Halliburton is under when he initiates offense and the pressure Jalen Brunson is under when he initiates offense. You would think it's two different sports with two completely different sets of rules. And no, that is not because the refs are rigging it for Indiana. That is because the Pacers defenders, maybe they're towing the line a little bit, but they're up at the level. They are hyper physical. They are Aaron Nesmith chest out, fighting through screen after screen. Some of that is that Cat is setting crummy screens, and this hasn't been a great screen setting series for Mitch for the most part. But like Jalen Brunson is dealing with physicality every minute he's on the floor. Tyrese Halliburton gets to stroll. And Mikal Bridges all year long, his reputation when he was a Sun was a guy who was an elite screen navigator. And that's what we talked him up as when that trade went through. And Nets fans were like, I don't know. He hasn't really been that guy for a while. And the sneaky truth of this playoff run for Mikal Bridges is it has been successful in the first two rounds, to your point on how they guarded Cade Cunningham, because he was not on the ball, because he was off the ball, and OG Anunoby got that assignment. And Mikal Bridges looks like an all-world defender off the ball. On the ball, he was B-ball indexes out of guys who played a large sample size of minutes. He was the worst screen navigator in all of basketball. And we're going to see that again in this series. He's not by any means equipped to guard Halliburton. Even when there's no screen, Alex, he gets toasted. And then you compound that when you do the hedge and recover crap with Brunson, where Brunson's just playing peekaboo and he pops his head in on Halliburton and then he pops out. And like, it's a joke because it is just them following what Tibbs says and not even like seemingly like pushing back to the fact that it's so obvious it doesn't work. Brunson's like, all right, I checked that box. Great. I was there. Now I can go. And yet he has to realize no one's home. So even if the scheme calls for hedge and recover, if no one's there, you have to stay, because if not, it's Halliburton just strolling to the rim. And that was not like a one-time breakdown that happened over and over and over again in this game, and it's just not tenable. And if you're going to go down with Jalen Brunson switching, and Halliburton might cook him a few times. You know what? The Knicks' goal is to make Halliburton a scorer anyways. Make him score 50 points to beat you. Like, I would prefer to watch him go with Jalen Brunson over and over again than what's happening now, where he's getting those buckets and he's getting the opportunities to spray out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think we've seen when Brunson is more empowered on defense to switch. I mean, we saw it in the Celtics series to a degree, and I think we've seen it in bursts in this series too. I mean, I think down the stretch of game 3, when the starting lineup actually closed it out and, you know, managed to close that game, they did full switches with Brunson and it worked. Like, he kept, I want to say it was Nembhard in front of him on one possession that like really stood out to me, where it was like Nembhard tried his best and Brunson just kind of played stout and kept him in front of him and got enough of a hand in his face that it bothered him. I mean, if you could do that, and if Brunson could do that, as long as you're not, you know, you're not seeding him getting switched on to like Siakam every play or something, like I don't really see why you don't give him a shot. You know, I think that he has the strength certainly to keep someone like Halliburton in front of him. So if they're going to keep running over with, you know, with Nembhard to screen or whatever, whoever Brunson is, you know, assigned to at that particular moment, they're going to keep running over and trying to get Halliburton on Brunson. Like, at least give it a shot for a few possessions. You know, that's the thing, is that they just resign themselves to defeat. It seems like so much, where they're not even willing to try something within a game when it's like plan A isn't working. So why not give plan B a try? Like, let Brunson try to defend. And sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. And I can understand, I guess maybe there's a little bit of trepidation there with like the amount of times Brunson has gotten put into foul trouble recently. But I feel like a lot of that foul trouble is the fact that he's always tilted and trying to recover and ending up like having to, you know, try to swat the ball away from someone or reach in or, you know, whatever the case may be, and getting put in disadvantageous situations. And you could just instead, you know, make it easier for him, which is just a straightforward assignment of switch everything. Just switch. If they're going to set that screen and Mikal gets caught on it, then you switch and just call out your switches and then do your best to get switch back whenever you can, or send help or whatever, you know, within reason. But I don't think it's untenable. I think it's, you know, I think they should give it more of an honest shot. And, you know, whatever, your season's on the line. Like, the stats say your season's 97% chance it's over anyway. So like, why not give it a shot? And so I'm with you. I think that switching Brunson, and not just switching Brunson, but switching everybody, like, even if it comes down when they start trying to get like Cat on Halliburton or whatever, let him cook, let him try it. I mean, Cat's bottled some guys up too. Like, if those are your 2 weak links, let them try to be strong and see if it works, because then you also free up where, like, if Brunson does just enough, or if you send a smart enough double, like at the right moment, then you've got the two mega elite ball hawks out there in OG and Mikal off the ball, who have great anticipation, long limbs, and, the ability to start a fast break. So maybe it works out for you. I don't know. But that's part of what worked in that Boston series. And I just feel like, again, we've seen against a team that ostensibly likes to play pretty similar in terms of how they like to space the floor and everything. I feel like we've seen very little of what kind of worked against Boston against this team as well.
Yeah, and I think to clarify my position, like I think your best case scenario is you have guys who can get through screens, right? Because it's still, this isn't me saying that it's good to have Brunson and Halliburton, because I don't think, to your point about the differences versus the Celtics series, I think part of Tibbs' hesitation is switching just has not gone as well. And a lot of that is just Indiana, and like Halliburton is like a more sophisticated playmaker and a more willing playmaker than Tatum and Brown are. So like when help comes and when digs come, like they are just able to punish it a little bit more than the Celtics were. I think ideally your point of attack is just better, right? And that means like I would probably have Mikal on Halliburton for like as close to 0 minutes as possible. Like I would try Anunoby, because it's not like Siakam is like finding so often, because of how fast they run and how often they get cross matches. Like he hasn't spent a ton of time, at least it's felt to me, or at least when Siakam's scoring, you haven't seen OG on him a whole lot in this series. And I wouldn't mind him like starting on Halliburton, not because he's like a great matchup, and there was a reason we were saying like it's probably going to be Mikal to start the series, but just because he can actually fight through screens. And then when Deuce is out there, like it should be Deuce every single minute he's out there. If it's right out there, it should be right every single minute it's out there. Shamet, I don't think would be great fighting through screens, but one-on-one, I honestly think he would do a better job than Mikal, because Mikal, again, is just like getting toasted in space for whatever reason. He's not been able to slide with the guy at all. So I would sooner try those guys. I would spend more time with those guys on the floor. And look, we saw it, right? End of game 3, fourth quarter. The Knicks win that game because Brunson picks up his 5th foul and Tibbs doesn't have a choice, and he doesn't play Brunson, and he finds stuff for a moment, right? And he's like, oh wait, this works with Deuce out here. This works with Deuce. I might have been Mikal and Halliburton, but like it works just having like one more good defender on the floor. And then it's as if he just doesn't trust what he finds. And that's, I think, the point we keep coming back to is like even at the end of the game when he puts the Shamet over Deuce, a reporter, like credit to the reporters, finally like asked Tom Thibodeau, like, what did you see? Why'd you go with Shamet over Deuce? He's like, like a little extra height. Like Landry Shamet's what, like 2 inches taller, 3 inches taller than Deuce McBride. And look, I liked how Shamet played, but I just think that the rationale and the reasoning behind it is ridiculous. And because of it, like I don't have a lot of faith these things will actually get implemented, but Alex, it's our job to talk about them anyways. When we come back, you're going to talk about one more. How could the Knicks recapture their early season offense? We're going to get into that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks.
All right, we're back in to get into the third key to a potential series upset here. Things the Knicks can hopefully do over the course of the next, well, hopefully 3 games. I mean, I guess we'll see, but got to win game 5 first to hopefully capture an upset here over the Pacers and become the 14th team to ever come back from 3-1, the Chris Copeland number, as I like to call it. They could become the Chris Copeland of it. Nice little deep cut there for hopefully people still remember that dude.
Former Knick and former Pacer, so it works.
Oh man, I forgot about that. Oh no, never mind. I take it back. Not the Copeland number. He abandoned us to go to the Pacer. No, I'm just kidding. He did the right thing for himself.
Obi Toppin before Obi Toppin.
I guess he kind of was low key. Yeah, I guess, even right down to like the role that he played on that team.
How they played, backup power forward who could kind of shoot a little bit.
Yeah, man. Shout out Chris Copeland.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right. My key is recapture the early season offense. So again, not to belabor anything, but before January 1st, the New York Knicks had a 120.1 offensive rating as a team compared to a 111.7 defensive rating. That was an 8.4 net rating. They were assisting on 64% of their field goals. They had a 2.1 assist to turnover ratio. Things were looking real good. The offense was great, shooting 61 true shooting as a team. I mean, just nonsense numbers. The offense was one of the best in the NBA. I believe to that point, they were only behind Cleveland, who were, they won like their first like 20 whatever games of the season and went on multiple long winning streaks, everything else. Like, so the Knicks were elite on offense to start the year. Post January 1st, in 48 games, they had a 115.4 offensive rating. So that's a solid 5 points less. 114.4 defensive rating, which is also worse. It's also 3 points worse. And a 1 point net rating. They did still assist on about 63% of their buckets, which is not bad, and still carried about a 2 assist to turnover ratio. But I think that we saw that the overall style of offense just changed at a certain point. And early on in the season, they were going, I keep referring to it in shows as like they were almost just going on instinct at the beginning of the season. They didn't get a full training camp together. They didn't have, they had a Cat get traded right before training camp started, and they've cited that all year as far as like it being difficult. Look, I'm not gonna lie to you, like unless they were gonna be getting together tons of times over the summer to play and scheme and do things, like they missed like 2 days worth of Cat being able to practice with them. So I've never quite bought that. But regardless, it was like guys still learning to play with each other. So they went to like honestly fairly basic sets, just like Spain pick and rolls or whatever with Josh Hart and Cat both setting screens for Brunson up at the top of the 3-point line. Cat getting pick and pop opportunities like pretty consistently, and then OG and Mikhail mostly living in the corners and being given the latitude of just like you're either getting a 3 from your favorite spot on the floor, because each of them well documented last year, especially. Like I think they were actually the number one guys in the entire NBA from their respective corners last season, when they were OG partly with the Knicks, partly with the Raptors, and Mikhail with the Nets. You know, they were in their favorite spots to start every action for the most part. They would get the ball. They would then, I mean, I think with what we've seen, especially from OG throughout the year, he would benefit huge from having that sort of opportunity again, to be able to have guys closing out on him and then potentially be able to, pump fake, go off the dribble there against the tilted defense, get inside, go up for a dunk, whatever, or kick it to the other corner to Mikhail. Likewise for Mikhail to kick it back over to OG. It was pretty beautiful offense. It was pretty simple, but like it was working. And, look, I'm not going to say that like the Pacers wouldn't be able to throw some wrenches in that with how they've been playing and certainly with how aggressive they've been at the level, but try to recapture some of it. Like just try it. Again, it's like your season's on the line. What do you have to lose by like going back to basics a little bit? Like, and the alternative is what? Have Brunson bring it down and like wave guys off and force him to start every action with 14 seconds left on the shot clock and dribble the ball down, maybe get a screen from Josh Hart that he has to work off of. And then, he tries to score on the inside. It's like, if you get started earlier, you get a little more leeway. And they were running like, wasn't exactly 7 seconds or less D'Antoni, Steve Nash ball, but like they're running a fairly quick and efficient offense early in the season, and it worked really well, and their efficiency was really good. So I don't know. That to me, it's like it's the most cliche advice ever, but it's just like go back to basics. Try to recapture some of what you had earlier this season, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But nothing else is really working that great right now either. So what's the harm at this point is kind of my rationale there.
Yeah, to me, look, we've talked through this before, so I won't belabor it. I think this kind of brings the conversation full circle, because I think what happened to the early season offense was not like a schematic change that Tom Thibodeau made. It was simply defenses starting to put a wing on Cat, starting to put a center on Josh Hart, and basically like essentially doubling Cat and like having an extra defender in the lane at all times, and that neuters that pick and roll, that neuters like their ability to like spray to the corners off that pick and roll. So I think for that to work, like you probably have to put Deuce McBride out there. But to your point, and if the argument is like, all right, if Tibbs is not going to do that, and they still like that if you still think that's the way they should be inclined, like I kind of tend to agree with you. Like I think you can still run some Brunson Cat pick and roll. You can run some Brunson Cat pick and pop. Like the key is just like running it hard and running it well. And like that's all this, right? Like a lot of it, like the part that isn't on Thibodeau is like the effort has not been there relative to Indiana's effort. Like I'm not going to, certainly not for the bench guys, but for the starters, like you just haven't seen the same level of intensity. They haven't been quite as locked in. And you can try to run a pick and roll like 2-on-3, and it might work, and it might be better than what the offense is now, because a lot of times you see them getting so late into the shot clock where they're trying to match up Hunt with Brunson, but like the initial screen for McHale is not great, and like Neesmith or Nembhard or whoever's guarding him at the time, Ben Shepherd, just like blows it up and fights through it. You don't get that switch, and then it's like, great, Jalen, go create some magic with 5 or 6 seconds left on the shot clock, and you're seeing that not really work over and over again, and it is like incredibly frustrating to watch. So if your logic is like, hey, just get your 2 best players involved more and see what happens, like they actually, like I think for the series, Jonathan Macri put the stat out today, they have 1 assist between the 2 of them, which is just, you would think they would walk into like 2 a game just because of how talented those 2 guys are, but it just hasn't happened. I'm not sure if this was the one, but they had a play where Brunson, it was a pick and pop. Brunson drove it. He slung it back to Cat. Cat pumped, beat his closeout, hit a runner for an and one. And that's an example of like, they have to fight through 3 guys to do it, but they're so good that they can win despite that traffic. To me, though, the best way to go about it would be have 5 shooters out there, like whether it's Shamit, Wright, or Deuce in that 5th spot for Hart. If you want more size, you go with one of those other 2 guys that isn't Deuce. I think it'll all of a sudden look magical. And to your point, they did that in game 1, and it looked great because Indiana treated Josh Hart like a shooter for a game. And then Rick Carlisle said, amazing, we won. That was stupid. Never doing that again. And that changed the series in my mind.
Yeah. And my other thing to that is, if, like they haven't necessarily been putting a wing, so to speak, on Cat in the series either.
Yeah, but they have been helping off with Nembhard, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But they've been putting Siakam on him. And so it's like, if they're going to send all that extra help, someone else is going to end up open. And not for nothing, like, just get a little more creative then and start having Hart cut in from the perimeter again. If they're going to send his man off to help or whatever, like that's something that he's been adept at. And that I feel like, again, is a thing that we see less and less of anymore, is Hart just
to argue, they're helping to the paint though. Like I think that's what cuts it off, but he can shoot, to your point. Shot 40% from 3 in the playoffs. So I don't know.
Yeah. If he feels like it, he could shoot. And it's just that varies game to game, day to day, whatever. But the other thing would be, if you're able to work 2-man actions with Brunson and Cat, it's like you're suddenly creating what? Nembhard on Cat and Brunson with Siakam on him, which I think are both exploitable matchups for both of those guys too. I think if you have Cat with Nembhard, it's going to be more likely you can get Nembhard in foul trouble and potentially make a mistake, with fouling him on the perimeter, trying to get into his space to alter his shot, which again, that's another one of my bugaboos with Cat, is that he just never, he doesn't take advantage of the fact that he's so much taller than smaller defenders in terms of like, I call it just because it's my best frame of reference, but like the Porzingis shot of like, where Porzingis is always just kind of understood, like, yeah, I'm 7'3". He can't get up here. Like it's like holding a ball away from a little kid, it's like, there's only so much people can do. Cat doesn't really ever take advantage of that, but if he wants to give it a shot, why not? He might force Nembhard into some dumb fouls, and then, or Neesmith, I'm sorry, into some dumb fouls. There I go, mixing those 2 up again. Yeah, it is. It's something about it. But then also you get Brunson with Siakam on him, which likewise, like that's not an ideal matchup by any stretch of the book. And then if they want to send help, hopefully you have shooting out there. I don't know. It's like they got to try something different. And I feel like they can take some low hanging fruit from the fact that they have 2 all NBA players, like 2 guys that were literally just voted all NBA for how good they were this season.
Yeah.
And they seem so little to be interested in getting both of them going at once in any given action. And it just turns into like, not quite your turn, my turn, but pretty damn close. I mean, it's like, it's either Cat's turn to cook or it's Brunson's turn to cook. And it's like the offense revolves around one of the 2, but seemingly never both. So I think they gotta find a way to do that. But anyway, I think that's all for this episode. Hopefully they do some of this stuff, or maybe something different. Maybe Tibbs has something else up his sleeve. Maybe this is the new version of just going down 20 every game, is they go, you know what, let's take this to a new level. Let's go down 3-1 and then have a miraculous comeback. Everyone's going to love us so much more if we do that. I don't know. Either way, got to win game 5, then got to win game 6, then got to win game 7 if you want your season to keep going. No more losses allowed in this round. Hopefully they can get off to a good start tonight in game 5. But till then, and until with the recap, we will talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.